Well, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. We would appreciate it if you would subscribe to us if you have not already. It sure would help us out a good bit. We're going to try to show you on this channel, if you'll watch us throughout the season, you know, how you go from a seed to a finished product on somebody's table. You know, all the steps before and during the season and afterwards. So a whole lot of things have to happen. But if you'll follow along with us, you'll be able to see that whole process. And I think it's pretty interesting to people, especially for those that are not familiar with it. So we don't claim to be always doing it the right way. I'm sure there's things that we do that we should be doing better or different, but it works. You know, I'm always up for doing something new or different if I think it would help or be more efficient or whatever. So follow along with us if you want to, and I think you will enjoy it. You know, this is our second year. We just finished the first full year of the videos, so we're starting over again. You know, it's kind of hard sometimes not to show the same thing as I did the year before, but that's what we do. You know, you have a process and a way you do things, and you do it the same way the next year unless you figure out a better way or figure out you were doing something wrong and need to change. So just give us a chance and follow along with us, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Stay tuned. All right, it is fertilizer time. Okay, we got the spreader buggy, got potash, resurge, and sulfur Tiger 90. Fix to spread it out on the plastic field. All right, these spreader buggies, you know, are ground driven. And so it's got a slide gate kind of that you crank and a setting. You know how many pounds per acre you're trying to put out, and your swath width, we're on 35 feet. And it'll get it pretty close. So that's how you can adjust your rate, you know, and put out what you're trying to put out. I'll show you that here when I get back out in the back of the buggy. Okay, this dry fertilizer mixture is going out broadcast over the whole plastic field, and I'm also going to do my sweet corn. All right, this is that slide gate I was telling you about. You can crank it up, it picks it up. You know, you've got your settings here, numbered settings. The fertilizer comes out on this belt, and the thickness that it comes out on this, actually it's really a chain that comes out, determines, you know, the width that you set your gate at is the thickness the fertilizer comes out on that chain. Right here, it hits these two spinners. They're spinning, and it slings it out pretty uniformly. Yeah, you've got your chart. You need to know your pounds per acre, the density, all that, and you can figure it out pretty close. This engages your drive wheels, and I can control it from the cab with the hydraulics to move it up and down, to turn it off and on. And that wheel drives this, and in turn that drives the whole thing. Okay, next morning we're switching gears now from dry fertilizer to liquid fertilizer. And this liquid fertilizer is going to be knifed right into the middle of the plastic bed. All right, on this little fertilizer rig, this is the pump. It's got your settings over here, how you set it. and it just pumps the fertilizer. Comes right through these hoses, right at the bottom of these knives. Comes out right here, these coulters turn, and it's going to put that fertilizer in two places, right in the middle of that bed. We're going to straddle that plastic bed, and it's going to put it right down in there. All right, this is these knives, and just putting that fertilizer right in the bottom of the bed here, and because it's soft, it knocks it down, and then we'll come back and re-hip it this afternoon, and then that's when we'll just leave it until it rains. You know, when I'm running, the knives are behind the tank and you can't see them, so you don't really know what's going on. They do make little red ball type monitors, but I don't have one. But it's not that big a deal. When I'm turning it around, I can tell if the knives are dripping, and as long as I can see that, I'm good. You know, what we did yesterday, we broadcast the potash with the other stuff, you know, over the whole field. This is obviously different because we're putting the liquid directly into the beds where the plastic beds will be. You've got your primary nutrients, your N, P, and K. Yesterday was the K on the broadcast with the potash. The N and the P, the nitrogen and the phosphorus, is what we're putting today, along with some micronutrients that'll go right in the bed. Now we will supplement the nitrogen for the whole season once the crops are transplanted through the drip tape. This is probably maybe half of the nitrogen, maybe, and we'll put the other half weekly through the drip. Okay, we're back on the bed shaper for the plastic. You know, we finished that liquid fertilizer. This will be the last thing we're going to do here before it rains. Got the bed set back up. Everything there looks pretty good. You know, the middles right here, I'm not too worried about that right now. We'll let it rain on it. It'll melt some more of that right there. We haven't worked on it too much in the last few trips across the field, so I'll do that before we lay the plastic after it rains. Come in here and smooth that back up a little better. That was a little too windy out there. I hope you could hear me what I was saying. We're gonna wait till after it rains to work on those middles. It'll look different after it melts some of that. The reason we set the beds back up, you know, the coulters on that liquid fertilizer rig knocked it down, and we want to kind of incorporate some of that dry fertilizer too. Plus we want the bed, you know, up good and tall before it rains on it, because it's going to settle. So after it rains, you know, we won't disturb the beds until it's time to lay the plastic, and we'll come in here twice and we'll do it, you know, right ahead of the plastic laying machine. We can do the middles anytime, but I'll probably do them, you know, before we lay the plastic, as long as it's, you know, dry enough to do it. But like I said, we can do that anytime. If you watched the videos last year, you'll remember that I incorporated the dry fertilizer in the middles before it rained on it, because I didn't want it washing it away. Well, the conditions are a little bit different this year. Last year, that soil in the middle was sealed over. You know, it had rained on it since we worked it up, and then when we slung out that dry fertilizer, the ground was pretty hard and sealed over, and it was more likely to move around with the hard rain. The way it is now, it's soft, and it's not going to go anywhere when it rains, so I'm not too worried about that. So that's why I'm going to wait do the middles later. Well, that's probably gonna do it for the tractor work for me until it rains. So I'm gonna switch gears starting tomorrow. I'm gonna start working in the greenhouse some, and got a load of tomato boxes coming in I gotta unload, and guys are still working on the peach pruning. I'm hoping they can get through about 4 or 5 more days, so they're on the home stretch. But we've got rain chances in the next 7 to 10 days scattered throughout, so I feel like we'll get the rain we need. So we'll go from there. Well, these are our first little tomato seedlings that are just barely popping through. Got them on the heat table, and we'll be taking them off soon and sitting them on the floor of the greenhouse. Okay, fast forward a few days, and we're gonna spend the morning working in the greenhouse. We've got some help this morning, and we're gonna try to knock out the first watermelons and some of the first peppers this morning. We have finished pruning the peach trees, so we've started picking up the limbs. We're not finished yet. We got rain chances some this week, starting today. Once I get that finished, then we're gonna start on the fertilizer on the peach trees and spraying underneath the trees, but we can't do any of that till we get limbs picked up. So we're gonna show you some today of what goes on here in the greenhouse. All right, what I've got right here is eggplant seed. See, it's pretty small. We're just gonna put them in there by hand. If you watched my videos last year, on the greenhouse, we talked about how I have a little vacuum seeder type deal that you can seed these trays with, but we stopped using it. I just drop the seed in there by hand, and if we have a lot to do, I get some of my help to help, and it really doesn't take that long. Sometimes it's just as fast as a vacuum seeder. On this little tiny seeded stuff, it does take a little longer, but when you're doing the bigger seeded stuff like the watermelons, cantaloupe, squash, that kind of stuff, it really doesn't take very long to do them by hand. All right, once the seed is in the hole, we'll put the dirt on the top, break it off. It's ready to go. All right, now we're switching to bell pepper. You can see they're a little bit bigger, but still pretty small. Anytime the seed is a different color than what you would get out of the actual plant, it's because it's got seed treatment on it. Comes that way from the seed company, and pretty much they all do. All right, what we're doing here is we water the soil in the trays. We've already got the soil, in the trays with no holes. So we water them good, and makes the soil obviously wet and kind of binds it together. And once it's wet, you can punch the holes in the trays. If you don't have the soil wet, the holes don't form. Here you can see the holes are all evenly punched in there because, you know, the soil is wet, and when you punch the holes, it stays where it is. That's our hole puncher right there. Just presses right down onto the flat. Anytime you see us with a flat of anything, it's going to be a 72 count tray. So each flat, no matter what we're planting, is going to have 72 plants in there. All right, we've moved our tomato flats off of the heating table and onto the floor, and they'll hopefully be ready in about a month. Okay, that's all for the eggplant and the bell pepper. On the first bell pepper, we only plant one planting of eggplant. Just a reminder, this is our heating table, you know, with the heaters underneath. We do that for all the small seeded stuff, the peppers, the eggplant, and the tomatoes. Everything else doesn't have to be on the heating table. It just helps those little small seeded stuff to germinate and sprout a little faster. Just to give you a little perspective, this bag of watermelon seed, $4,300. A little bit on the high side. This is watermelon seed. They're orange colored from the seed treatment. Okay, we knocked the first watermelons out, the red watermelons, and the eggplant, of course, and the bell pepper. And then we also got the cantaloupe seed in the holes, but I'm not gonna cover them up with dirt yet. I'm gonna wait 3 or 4 days or so because they get ready a little faster than the watermelons. So it didn't take too long, maybe about 3.5 hours, and we got it knocked out. All right, we got an important day today. Got some important stuff we need to get done. Pretty much all in the peach orchard. This morning we are spraying underneath the trees. My guys have got just an hour or two left, finished picking up the limbs, so I'm right behind them, putting out herbicide. All right, got my herbicide in my tank here with my extended hood. You know, it rides right under the trees, and we are going down, you know, both sides of the trees. Now, it'll leave a little strip here in the middle that doesn't get anything. We'll come back with a hooded hand sprayer and get that strip right there. But we'll do this first, kind of let it work, and then you'll be able to tell, you know, where the green strip is in the middle, and we'll come back and get that by hand. You can tell too that the trees are starting to bloom. So that's a good sign, as long as we don't get any more freezes. I feel like we probably passed that, but you never know. There goes a load of limbs. All right, we got a 5-foot hood. It's got 3 nozzles under there. So we get a 5-foot herbicide strip on each side of the tree, on each side of the mound. Then I've got an electric pump mounted under that white chemical jug there that I keep on top of it just to protect it. Okay, we pulled up to the fertilizer plant here at Helena, and got the buggy on my truck, and they're fixing to load me up. I've got 2 different blends we're putting on the peaches today. The loader's on the other side of that blender inside the building. They know exactly of each blend what to put in there. They're looking at the scale, and this blender will blend it up, mix it up good, and it'll go on that auger right into the buggy. It actually comes out of here and goes into there, and that's really more of the blender over there. It tumbles it around and then it comes back up the auger. Okay, I'm pulling the buggy with my truck in the peach orchard, and we're gonna do 2 different applications. We're not mixing them in the same buggy because it's too much to do at one time. So fix and do this, put it out, go back, fill up again, come back, do it again. This is gonna be my nitrogen and my potash and my resurge. Going to be real hard to see, especially in the sun. There's fertilizer. Anyway, trust me, it's there. It's slinging it out pretty good. You can see what I was talking about on the earlier part of this video. This gate determines the thickness that the fertilizer comes out on this chain, and this is open almost about all the way that you would want to use it. So it's pretty thick on there. Okay, we're back, second trip with the buggy again. This time we're putting out a calcium sulfur mix here on the peaches. After this, we probably won't fertilize them again until maybe May. At least with the dry fertilizer. We do put in some foliar when we start spraying them weekly. All empty. We are done. All right, we're gonna wrap up the video there. I appreciate y'all watching. We've got a chance of some pretty big rain in the next 24 to 48 hours. So the first dry chance we get after it dries up, after that, we're gonna lay the plastic. So see y'all next time.